Okay, we are here to discuss Lady in the Lake, episode 3 on Apple TV Plus. This episode titled I Was the First to See Her Dead, You Were the Last to See Her Alive. This is written by Brianna Belser, directed, third episode in a row, directed by Alma Harrell. We follow sort of two paths here, Cleo and Maddie following separate things. Cleo is still alive after the assassination attempt at the end of episode 2, but certainly not doing well at all. We get glimpses of her childhood, how her father was in debt to Shell Gordon, forced him to sell his trumpet, his livelihood. Cleo starts having strange visions about hopscotch, lambs, laundry, ghosts, all sorts of things that starting her to sort of go off the deep end a little bit. She's also concerned about her son, who continues to see his health deteriorate from his sickle cell disease. So Cleo and her mother call in the prophet, who tries to do some things to heal him, can't do much, but says maybe God will do it if you give his church and him some money. While her husband performs his comedy routine at the club, Cleo gets drunk, dances with strangers. Officer Plath then confronts her about the assassination attempts, as he knows she drove the car that night over to the Summers house. Cleo gives him information about that car and the shooters after he offers to protect her. Reggie, who works for Shell Gordon, later confronts Cleo and admits that Shell does not know he sent her to make the drop-off before the assassination attempt. Cleo offers a deal where they could rig the gambling game that Shell runs and disappear, but he refuses. Meanwhile, Maddie continues in her rebellion against her background and against her religion by getting her ears pierced. She shows up at the Baltimore Star, asking reporter Bob Bauer for a job. She says she'll do anything, write, research, background, whatever it takes to get back into investigative journalism. But Bob rejects her. Maddie does continue her sexual relationship with Officer Platt. That causes her to one day miss up picking up her son Seth from school, causing a fight between the two that ends up with Maddie admitting that Milton is not Seth's father. He seemed to already know that, but still accepts him as his father. And she doesn't want anything to do with his mom. Maddie gets a letter from Stefan, the accused killer of Tessie, and she uses leverage to get a job with the Baltimore Star. The reporter Bob Bauer and Maddie learn from the medical examiner that someone tried to rape Tessie, meaning there could have been someone else involved in that situation. The episode ends with Maddie agreeing to go meet Stefan at where he's locked up at a mental hospital. Both of these ladies, as the stars of this show, seem to be pretty down bad in this episode. Cleo's still with us. Maddie's moving up in the world, it seems. Where should we start with these two?
I guess let me start, not to nitpick your summary, but just a couple of little details that you maybe glossed over. Maddie writes a letter to Stefan first. I think that's worth
Mm-hmm.
noting. And he replies, and she gets that, and then
Yeah.
the hospital calls and says he wants to see her in person. And apparently, she's going to go, and that's where the episode ends. Um, anyhow, that what was the other thing? Well, whatever. We'll probably circle around to it if it matters. But just some of the little details I appreciate it, I guess, is part of what I wanted to say that the show does kind of make us put some things together a little bit. I believe I speculated last week that maybe Shell didn't know that Reggie handed the job off to Cleo. I was like, I was right about that. They made that obvious, by the end. That seems worth noting. I don't know. I mean, the first thing that struck me, I guess, was almost a certain level of surprise that Cleo was still alive
That's the
and that
immediate
the
thing
story was
that
going as
struck me
slow
as
as it
well.
is.
Yeah, yeah, there is some real pacing. I'm not going to say bad pacing, but there's some real intentional slow pacing to this. We know from the very first scene of this show that we're going to find Cleo at some point dead in the lake. We assumed, oh, well, it's because she was a witness to what happened at the end of episode 2. Now I guess we're led to believe that because she has confronted Reggie and Reggie has rejected her attempts to get out of there, maybe Reggie's going to do this, but maybe that's part of the mystery is who's going to do this and when's it going to happen.
Well, I mean, yeah, but beyond the fact that we saw her die, we saw her being dumped in the lake at the beginning of episode 1. In that scene, she's wearing the blue coat that she was wearing at the end of episode 2. So I
Yep.
kind of thought I was drawing a straighter line, but I mean, of course, yeah, she can wear that jacket whenever she wants to. Um, I did go back to the beginning of episode 1, and I don't know if anyone out there is more eagle-eyed than I am in terms of who dumps her body in the lake.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you know?
I don't feel like I know this. My
Because you see
assumption
him,
after,
but it's dark.
yeah, my assumption after the first couple of episodes was Reggie, but now I don't know that we can draw that line, or maybe we can draw this line after their confrontation at the end of this episode. I'm just not sure about that.
Yeah, I went back and I looked, and well, this was last week actually. I went back and looked. I didn't go back and look again. Maybe if I had, I would have come to a different judgment. But it's dark, and I started thinking it was the other guy in the car who goes to do the
Mm,
assassination.
yeah.
And I started thinking it wasn't Reggie because, as far as I could tell, the guy's eye wasn't messed up. But by the end of episode 3, Reggie's eye seems to be getting better. So maybe it was Reggie. I don't know. I don't know if there's anyone out there who feels like they know for sure, but you see him, So part of me feels like I don't know, I'm paranoid that I'm missing the obvious in a certain
Yeah.
way
It was
because
interesting
you do see him,
that
but it's dark.
for 3 episodes they've talked about someone, a black man with a black eye, and they reference that again this episode, and you clearly see him better, even though I guess we're only a day or two post what we last saw. He certainly is doing better. So how that references, what that is used to as they continue to investigate Tessie's murder because someone witnessed him in that shop, we'll see. But yeah, there's a lot of appealing to that specific aspect of this one person. So how that factors in, I guess, remains to be seen.
Yeah, right. And that's good too. We have a potential intersection of these stories insofar as Stefan is saying things or has said things, apparently trying to pin it on Reggie. We know from that scene Reggie was indeed in the fish fish store. Is it a pet shop more generally, or is it just a fish store? And he got the fish that he later flushed down the toilet.
Right.
So I don't think Reggie did it because of that, but who knows how racism and so on might start playing in. Um, we learned from the medical examiner at the end that there was skin under Tessie's fingernails. Stefan didn't seem to be scratched. Santa Claus?
We still have no logical explanation for this scene, vision, thought of Tessie there with Santa Claus. So who in the world knows what that is? It doesn't seem to be that. I don't think we need to make the leap that Reggie and Stefan have done anything together, but maybe that's possible. But I don't get that connection at all.
Yeah, I don't think so, but it's possible.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, Reggie, it's possible Reggie snagged Tessie and sold her to Santa Claus. Various things are possible. Or, Stefan did what. It'll be interesting to
How
see
will
what he
you
has to
feel
say.
if they don't explain the Santa
How will
Claus
I
show?
feel if they don't explain the Santa Claus?
Yes.
Very disappointed. Very
Okay.
disappointed. I'm going to be like mentioning Santa Claus every week. Um, what about that? What about the Santa Claus thing? Um, oh, this is the other thing I was going to mention about your summary that I thought was of some significance. That when Officer Platt does some good investigative work, tracks down Cleo and confronts her, and he says, "We all know who gave you that envelope. Come in, we'll keep you safe." She
Yeah.
points out that Platt's partner is on the take, that the police in general are on the take through Platt's partner, which he did not know.
Yeah, it doesn't seem there. He either does not know or does a very good job of hiding the fact that he knows. But it's, I think we're led to believe that he is not aware of this because he's not been a part of those scenes when the partners collected envelopes from folks around town.
Yeah, and I think it was indicated in the previous episode too that he didn't know.
Yeah,
Is he willfully ignorant? You know, okay, there's nuance potentially, but there's that wrinkle also, and this guy, Officer Platt, seems to be a pretty important character as it comes down to it, in terms of the investigation he's doing, and then how is he going to figure into what happens once Cleo is killed?
I was going to say he almost is the intersection. right? So he has
Hmm.
got this relationship with Cleo, is investigating what's happened and sees her involvement. He's got this relationship, first professional, then sexual, with Maddie. He is either willingly or not a part of this corrupt Baltimore police department and what they're trying to do. He obviously knows and has some sort of relationship with Shell Gordon and his henchmen. He's familiar with that whole ring of what's going on there. So he is very, I think, very much at the center of what's happening here. And right now, we've not seen, other than just in passing in a department store, Maddie and Cleo's lives intersecting. It's really through this guy right now.
Yeah, I think that's true. And it's interesting. We get more voiceover narration from Cleo. I'm starting to wonder, not to be crass, but like, when is she going to die? I started to
Yeah.
wonder, like, is it going to kind of drag out to the very end or something? Um, but yeah, I am imagining that. Sorry, what I was going to say lumped into that is what we're seeing with Maddie is her getting herself involved in the Tessie case more
Yep.
to try to reactivate her journalism career, if it's even appropriate to say that. I mean, like Button, you work for the school newspaper.
Yeah.
Is that a career? Fine, let's call it a career, whatever. Um, Whereas in the voiceover, it seems like Cleo keeps saying that Maddie uses Cleo's death, to jumpstart her career as a journalist or what have you. So I am wondering kind of how that's going to play out.
Yeah. I do find myself thinking the same thing about, I think we have to remember there's only 7 episodes in this season. So, we're about to be halfway through this. I would have assumed that some of, as Maddie's investigative journalism work is beginning and increasing, and as she's getting more, I think, in depth with that, part of it would have been, oh, now I have both of these things to investigate, both Tessie's abduction and murder and this murder of Cleo. But with that having happened yet, I mean, I don't want to say we're running out of time. We still have 4 episodes left, but I would have just assumed that she would have been looking into both. And right now, we're just not there yet.
Yeah, we're not there, and they didn't jump from. See, like part of me thought at the end of episode two, because of the freeze frame, that when episode three started, we were going to be after Cleo's death.
Right. Right. I
Nope,
assumed the
that
same
that
thing.
was that was a wrong inference to make. So just thinking about the structure of the show, you mentioned it's 7 episodes overall. At this point, I'm thinking, well, is it going to be the end of episode four that she dies? That almost feels like the earliest it could be,
Yeah.
given the pace at which we're proceeding. So I don't know. We'll see. It's not like I'm sitting here chomping at the bit for her to die or something, but we know that she dies, and so how's the story going to hang together?
Yeah.
Um,
And now I find myself thinking, with the conversation they had at the end of episode 3, Cleo and Reggie, it seemed like Reggie was not really considering it, but was at least intrigued by it. And the two of them certainly have a relationship. We know that he did not tell Shell that she was the one being sent. So does it create more problems than it needs to if he ends up being the one to murder her? I'm not convinced that he's the one that does it, which means, is it going to be, as you said, Shell at the end of the next episode? Is it someone we don't know yet? Is it some other set of circumstances? We just, we haven't gotten there, and I thought we would be there by now.
yeah, right, because it could be that they do rig the game, and then Shell has her killed
Yeah,
or
that finds
something.
that out and has her killed. So that was one of my questions. So what is the game exactly? We heard this in the first couple episodes. I assume it's some kind of lottery game where everybody buys in and then they pick a number and the number that, whatever. But it seems like this is also based on horse racing. Is there a both? Is there sort of, he's got multiple scams going on? What's your make on this?
Okay, so the numbers game. This is a real thing. You can look it up. Also sometimes referred to as a policy game. But yeah, I mean, I think you've got the basics right. That what they would do, or I don't even know if I should speak fully in the past tense. I don't know if anyone's still running this kind of numbers game in 2024. It's possible, right? But the basics is um, like a lottery or something. You're betting on a 3-digit number,
Hmm.
right? Unlike the lottery, No, it's just one number, right?
Yeah.
And so in the story of Lady in the Lake, people are using this dream book and things like that. I don't know how grounded that is in reality. But as I understand the basics of the game, which might vary a bit depending on who's running it or what city or what have you, it's almost as simple as that, that you bet on this 3-digit number hitting
Yeah.
with odds of like 600 to 1. Of course, your odds of that particular 3-digit number hitting actually are like 999 to 1. So the house is
Right.
going to win even if they run the game legitimately, right?
Yeah.
There are histories though of it being rigged and stuff like that. So I was reading about this, and apparently, what they started doing, the tie-in with horse racing is they started taking the numbers from the day's wagers on horse races. All right. And they would take the last dollar digit from the amount of money people won on first place horses, second place horses, and third place horses.
Okay.
Right. Win, place, and
Place in the
show.
show. Yep.
Right. And those would be the three numbers.
Okay.
And so
Okay.
they'd say, look, this gives a level of legitimacy to it. Like we're not in control of these numbers. These numbers are coming from the horse races.
Okay.
Um,
That sort of explains it because clearly this is not like a state regulated, we have accountability here for it could be, yeah, Shell Gordon's in a back room creating the numbers. Oh, nobody got it. We keep all the money, that type of thing. So sort of what's the level of legitimacy here, even though it is being run by a gangster, it seems like.
right. I do wonder, and it's not like I know uh, an expert level about this stuff. I do feel like there was something in a previous episode where Shell was showing off some kind of machine, which made me wonder if they were doing more like a lottery raffle thing,
Yeah, yeah, could
or
be.
maybe they're doing that too. Who knows?
Yeah. Just seems to be a lot of talk about this game. And as you said, tied into not only what people are trying to do to save their livelihoods, they've used this dream book. There is just, it's a big part of Shell's business, right? It's just very much tied into this. So I just think there's going to be something that plays into this numbers game down the road, more so than it already has.
Right. Yeah. But if people are curious, I mean, look, I'm not going to pretend like I just already knew all of this. There's a Wikipedia page. You can go read about it on Wikipedia.
Okay.
Search numbers game on Wikipedia. Okay. But yeah, if people are curious about that and haven't done that, I think it's good to talk it through. Related to that, what do you make of the flashbacks with Cleo's father? One of the things I thought was interesting here was we get the actual flashbacks when they're in the bathroom and all of that.
Yeah.
But then in terms of what ultimately happens, we don't. We get that differently. We're kind of told that it worked, they hit the right number, but then her dad left.
Yeah.
Do you think that's what happened, or what do you make of all this?
Yeah, I'm not, I can't take anything that because there's been so much, I'm trying to think of the right word here to use. So much outside of reality that comes in these visions and in these dreams and other things. I can't take anything that they're just supposedly not telling us or showing us that as fact here. I did take it as you showed us this flashback from 1948 when Cleo was a child to introduce us to the fact that this is basically how their community is. This is what is one of the most essential part of their lives. They just can't escape this game, quote unquote. They can't escape this life. They can't escape this thing where there's this one or two players in the community. They're indebted to them. They can't escape sort of the influence of that. And if they do, then or they try to, then forget it. They're gone. So just a sense of this has been Cleo's life. This is what she's known for 20 plus years. And that the one thing that confused me a little bit is this is the same Shell Gordon. He doesn't look like the type of guy that's been doing this for 20 or 30 years, but that's just, I guess, a sort of a leap of
Yeah,
television we have to make here. But
I don't know if it is though, because I was thinking about this. And let me look this up real quick. Guy's name's Wood Harris. As I
Yeah.
mentioned last week, he played Avon Barksdale on The Wire.
Yeah.
Well, The Wire was on television like 20 years ago.
Okay.
He looks very the same.
Okay. Okay.
So let's see. Wood Harris is currently 54 years old.
Okay. So yeah,
Um,
he could have been running something at 34 years old. Sure.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, the same guy, sure, 20 years ago. Um, One thing I thought was interesting in the flashback seeing Theo's father, so he's been roughed up. We don't know exactly why, other than he gave Shell his trumpet, his
Right.
payment for a debt.
Yep.
He's not in a good situation.
No.
But his wife's very mad at him, right? So Cleo's mother basically tells him he needs to get his trumpet back or she's going to kick him out.
Yep.
Then you have the bit with Cleo coming in. She gives him the $10, says, go put on this number that was in my dream. Now, in the jump, whatever, 18 years into the future, right? In the present of the show, Cleo's son relays that he's been told that Cleo won the numbers game on that night, but her father took the money and skipped town,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know. And I think there are real reasons to second guess whether that's what really happened because we don't see it. And maybe
Yeah.
that'll get filled in later, maybe not. How significant is it? I don't know. But just thinking about the whole story, it seems to me like it would be possible that, well, no, maybe that number didn't hit
Yeah.
and her father got killed by these gangsters and they lied to her and said, yeah, he hit the number and he skipped town on you. It just seems like that kind of thing's a possibility here.
Yeah. Or my thought was maybe even worse that he just skipped town just to flee from whatever debt problems he had with Shell, and he's gone, whether he won or not. I mean, maybe he did, maybe he didn't, but it doesn't seem likely that they want to pay out on these numbers. So the chance that he got money, kept it for himself, left town, doesn't strike me as the most realistic possibility.
I don't know. There's no reason for them to not pay out when someone
Right,
wins,
right, right,
really,
right.
because that's one of the things I thought was really interesting reading about this a bit. And one of the things I was curious about with the numbers game is I was gathering that it was just like you bet on one three-digit number and you win a lot of money or you lose.
Yeah,
That seems to me like not super appealing as a gambler. I want more chances of winning a smaller amount,
yes, yes.
right? Like you go buy a scratch off lottery ticket and you're hoping to win the $1 million or whatever, but
Yeah,
maybe
yeah,
you win $20. Like, what?
exactly.
Not bad. You know what I mean? So I do wonder if they have any wrinkles like that. But anyway, there's
Yeah.
no reason they shouldn't want to pay out because most of the time people will lose. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know about that, but it is possible that, I mean, look, maybe Cleo's dad lost on that bet, couldn't get his trumpet back, knew he couldn't go home, and did skip town, right? And there are various possibilities. And I don't know if we'll get any resolution or not.
Yeah, I don't know that we will. But to your point, yes, there's a reason why you can bet numbers on roulette and also bet red and black because you get a little bit of money back on red and black. If you don't hardly ever win when you bet a single number on roulette.
Yeah, right. And this is one out of 1,000.
Right, exactly.
So I don't know, just thinking about the popularity of the game. But at the same time, people go and they buy Powerball tickets and, you know, I don't need to
Yeah.
go on that rant, I guess.
No.
But it bothers me. So I'm going to. I'm sorry. It bothers me sometimes when I see someone who's buying like 20 Powerball tickets.
Yeah.
Um, and because you're not actually increasing your odds by 20
Nope.
at all, if you you know how probability works, you're actually not really increasing your odds at all from buying one ticket.
That's right.
So you buy one ticket, your odds are like 1 in 70 million or whatever. You don't need to have the odds of 1 in 70 million 20 times. It's still basically 1 in 70 million.
Exactly. Oh,
Anyhow, speaking of fathers, we should talk about this bit with Maddie and Seth a bit more. She tells Seth that Milton's not his father, and he seems to know because he read her diaries, but the diaries don't say who his father
who
is.
the father? Yeah, this maybe bothered me a little bit. I mean, I guess sons find their mom's diaries and read them, and are don't say anything, and then when they learn, are okay with it. I mean, I'm just trying to think if I could sort of account for these being the appropriate reactions from specifically from Seth. I guess so, because maybe he's had this time to digest it over a long period of time, but and he just doesn't care because he loves Milton and wants Milton to be his father. Um,
It would have
but
been several years because he's
yeah,
looking at
yeah.
colleges and so on. So he
He talks
must
about
be at least 17, 18 years old.
he talks about
You
how
have
he
a bar
learned.
mitzvah when you're
Yeah,
how old is it when you have a
Thir-
bar mitzvah?
13 usually.
13, yeah. So it's
So
been several years. Um, because he gives us that kind of timestamp on it.
yeah,
I don't know, that seemed plausible enough to me. I don't know why he's in her closet, but he's sees her diaries.
yeah.
He's curious, you know, maybe he's playing hide and
Maybe that's
seek or something. Who knows?
just my own childhood, fear of my life ending if I was going through my parents' things was probably going into part of that.
Yeah, but then you got to have like, all of our lives are different, but think about how there's also maybe the kind of appeal of that
Yeah, yeah,
forbidden fruit or whatever, right?
that's
Like, oh,
true.
what's in
That's
dad's
true.
filing cabinet?
Yeah,
Um,
I find myself missing Milton this episode. Love that actor. So wish we I hope we get more of him. I believe that we will.
we do see him
We do see him, but he's just
in
sort of
the
giving a disapproving look to Maddie as she drives away.
on the topic of Seth's father. I hope we get more information here because look, I'm totally fine with a TV show giving us things a bit, obliquely, elliptically, in
Yeah,
fragments or whatever. I just have too many questions in terms of how to read this. The quick scene we got last week, I think, was giving us an indication there, and so I'm really tempted to jump to the conclusion that Seth's father was Alan's father, and that's what we were seeing. But the thing is like it's not like we saw them having sex. We saw them like cleaning
right.
up blood on a blanket or whatever, right?
Yeah, there just was, I think it's two massive pieces of a puzzle that almost, make the picture clear when you put those two together, right? That there was this look, there was this slight flirtation. Now we learn that Seth has a different father. So at this point, we have to say, what else could it be?
That's how I'm putting it together at the
Yeah,
moment, right? That however exactly that circumstance occurred, um, then Alan stands her up for the prom. She finds out she's pregnant.
right.
She gets together with Milton quickly enough to be
Immediately.
able
Yep.
to convince him that it is his child that she's pregnant with. Gets married to him, even though she maybe never even liked the guy really all that much.
Yeah.
And, 18 years later. So that makes sense to me. I guess I'm just hoping that we get a little bit more of that story,
Yeah. I think
and
there's
with it, some confirmation.
it seems that especially with Cleo, we're starting to get some sprinkles of background and history and family life. We got a little bit of that. I think it was episode 2 mostly with Maddie. So I think this is one of those things where we'll get sort of some back and forth here. Maybe on the next episode we'll get more of Maddie, and then we'll get more of Cleo. But they are sort of giving us bits and pieces of their history. It's starting to explain some of their dynamics as we go forward.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Um, well, let's see. Anything else you want to hit on before we wrap this up?
I'm just very interested to see where this goes with a meeting between Maddie and Stefan and Steven. Stefan, what we heard what this is? It's Steven?
I think it's Stefan.
Stefan. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
No, I thought it was a good place to end it. I'm curious. I don't know the ethics or the policies of investigative journalism and newspapers, but you're going to send your brand new wet behind the ears person to go interview an accused murderer.
I don't think they
I
even
don't know.
know.
Yeah, they probably
She's
don't.
not really employed by the newspaper.
That's
Not
true.
really. Um,
Doing it on her own. After, I mean, good for her. After she got an advance for, this information that she brought to him, and is now the Robin to Bob's Batman when they go to the medical examiner and not afraid to confront him. So good for her.
yeah, okay. We'll go with that. I mean, she's kind of playing a dangerous game. She's kind of sticking her nose into some stuff,
Yeah.
and we don't know exactly how that's going to go. Um, is there some possibility that all of this ends up pinning stuff on Reggie that he didn't do? I mean, various things are possible, so
Yeah.
I'm not exactly willing to laud her as a hero just yet. We have to
Yeah.
see what happens. But I'm very curious to see, what Stefan has to say. Again, I think last week I called him like a weird little guy.
Yeah.
He was wearing a gas mask. He was like getting in a tub naked with little fish and stuff. Um, but as I said last week, that does not necessarily mean that he is the one who attempted to rape and who ultimately killed Tessie.
Yep.
We don't know for sure, but maybe he is. What's he going to say to Maddie? Is Maddie going to believe him? Is
Yeah.
another question. And yeah, I'm looking forward to see where it goes from here.
Yeah. That's one thing I'll say about Maddie is I do believe that she appears to be open to other realities or other suggestions of what happened beyond just Stefan being there and doing it on his own. Now that she's, maybe she'll go more down that road after she talks to him and hears his side of things. We'll see. Yeah, I mean, like I said, good way to end it, sort of leave us there as we go into I don't know, their version of Mindhunter, right? Where they you're gonna go interview him in the mental hospital.
Yeah, pretty much. All right. So we'll be back next week talking about episode 4 of Lady in the Lake. Hopefully you'll join us. Hopefully you've enjoyed listening to the podcast. If so, please do leave us a good rating, leave us a review. If you're on YouTube, subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you're not on YouTube, do me a favor, go to YouTube, like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. You leave comments, whatever. Follow TV Obsessive on social media. Search for TV Obsessive, and you can find us on X, Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads. And yeah, we'll see you next week.
All right, see you next week for episode 4.